First of all, I'm the president and designated broker for Premier Sales, and we are an M&A firm, and we're a little bit different because we only work with privately held companies. And generally speaking, what we find is there's a very big gap, so to speak. What we find is the smaller end clients, and I'm talking about businesses about $20 million in revenue and below, all the way down to $2 million in revenue. These smaller companies, they do a great job, but oftentimes they have blind spots. And so we actually work with these companies, and we've worked with companies for multiple years. Our engagements are usually multi-year. If we do an assessment of value and we say, you're not maximizing the value, and we show them how to do that, we'll work with them for years. And the results are phenomenal. I mean, like we take companies that have a baseline value of very little, getting it to multiple millions of value. And in the meantime, while they're holding it, we're helping them, essentially improve their personal net worth, but not having all their eggs in one basket. When we use IBIS, we use that for benchmarking, telling them about the industry, what's happening inside of it. The beautiful thing about Phil, and I got to tell you, I was not an advocate for using Phil. I'm telling you that now. I think AI is flawed, and I have all these things because you're talking to someone who is a quantitative analysis person. That was my area of study and finance. And so I have my biases about technology, but Phil has been phenomenal. And I mean phenomenal in terms of saving time. Let's just say, for example, we're working with a client that's just on the consulting side to get them in the position of being able to grow their business and enhance value. Where Phil comes in hugely is when they go to market. So we're creating the Confidential Information Memorandum. I can write a great CIM, but everyone else is not as skilled, I would say. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just I'm fast. I can consolidate tons of data points and get it succinct and generate something in a very short period of time. Utilizing Phil allows us to be able to turn those CIMs very quickly, and anyone in the organization can do it. That's a beautiful thing. I'm no longer the bottleneck in the organization. I'm looking for the best quality product going out the door because that's a representation of our client, right? And so that's why Phil has become incredibly a critical factor in, number one, producing excellent product, excellent CIMs, and then having it be very fast and providing our associates and being able to generate CIMs of equal or better quality. I read them and I'm thinking, wow, this is outstanding. And in fact, it's gotten to the point where our clients are all commenting, wow, this is outstanding. That's a beautiful thing. What used to take a week can be done inside of a day, and I'm just checking for a review and it's out the door. So it's speed up our processes so fast. So it's wonderful. I never would have thought I'd be someone who'd be an advocate for it, but we're now looking at it and saying, okay, how else can we utilize this? I will tell you that becoming a subscriber to IBISWorld has been life-changing because we used to do a lot of research, and having IBIS to begin with was wonderful. And then IBIS also does tap into having benchmark data points. That's hugely valuable. And so in our interactions with a number of professionals across the nation, we keep telling them that this single tool will change your practice. We're an advocate for IBISWorld. We're an advocate for utilizing Phil. I feel strongly that IBISWorld and Phil in particular has helped us tremendously. Every time I turn around, they're adding something new, and it is valuable. I am approached regularly by other organizations saying, hey, take a look at our database and our information. But I have found that IBISWorld has been so valuable and far and above everything else. Providing industry data is one thing, but the level of data points that you provide on the financial performance in the industry, that is monumental. That right there. And I know that, that's why I keep advocating that people need to check you out. I don't see that being available broadly in other organizations. So I love IBISWorld. We usually have 3 to 4 questions. We found that number one, we asked, what are the significant success drivers and how is the current economic environment influenced by that? So that we could immediately tell business owners, these are the things you need to know. This is how you're going to move the needle inside of today's economic environment. And it'll bring in things like, okay, there's going to be a technological change. You got to look at this. We do ask about financial metrics because we know that's super important. And we could pull that data down below, but we like the narrative that Phil comes up with. So we do ask, what are the industry financial metrics that a company in this industry should meet? I think there's also one about competition. So being able to extract salient points in a summarized fashion that hits at home, but in language they can understand. Even though we can have some brilliant business owners, the terminology is not necessarily going to convey the communication properly. Phil has the ability to put it in layman's terms. That's what I love. That's the other thing, because that's probably the single most valuable thing we do as a firm. We have business owners who, for most, going to market is the first time ever, but they don't understand the language of M&A and dealing with private equity groups and corporations and things of that nature, and the risk factors around all that. So our value is that we actually take this world they're not familiar with and put it in context so they can understand, and then we work with them to be able to resolve and manage through it. But that's what Phil does for us, and facilitates having that great information synthesized, put in layman's terms, so able to communicate excellent with a client who may not have the language. There are business owners who think their value is really high, and we benchmark them and they're underperforming. We have data points to be explained it, but then we also have a way of being able to show them through Phil or through extrapolation data that we have to do manually. And thank God you guys also allow us to download the information in Excel. So, we're able to show exactly where their missteps are and how it's easily correctable, and it's amazing. And that's what's beautiful about it, is we're able to actually guide clients where we get immediate results. You may decide you don't want to exit right now, but let's position you that you can say yes at any time. That's the goal. We've had people say, there's no way we can have that kind of a net margin. This because we tell them, if you're not at a certain percentage of revenue dropping to the bottom line, no one is going to be interested. And they say, it's impossible. It doesn't work. I say, well, here it is, your competitors are. It's interesting, to see. But I really appreciate IBIS and Phil. Phil is the big, nice surprise in my life.